The presence of the Muslim Brotherhood in Europe in general and Germany in particular dates back 2 decades ago, when Germany directed the Brotherhood leaders to be persecuted by the Arab regimes, especially Egypt and Syria, as well as the Turkish Brotherhood of the Mili Garouche group, and the group received comprehensive embrace in Berlin to the extent that the group in all its branches deals with Germany as if it were a state of headquarters planning and funding for the rest of the global networks.
The Muslim Brotherhood made itself known in Europe and North America back in the 1960s. So its legacy, it's the strength and extent of its influence is well established. But the focus has often been more on the US, the UK, I think, more than continental Europe. And the last decade has been very interesting for the fortunes of international Islamism, and particularly for the Ikhwan, for the Muslim Brotherhood. With the collapse or the removal of the Morsi regime and the growing antipathy towards the Muslim Brotherhood shown by certain Gulf states like the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, we've seen a decline in the fortunes of the Muslim Brotherhood around the world. And nowhere has this been more obvious than in the US and the UK, where we've seen them really removed and replaced by new generations of Islamists. The most shocking effects, of course, have been in places like North Africa and parts of the Middle East, where the Brotherhood has been almost decimated, no longer anything like its power in its heyday. Germany and continental Europe are a slightly different story. The Brotherhood does remain. It does continue to exert an important effect. The French government is particularly cognizant of this fact and has enacted all sorts of legislation to go after, to suppress, to tackle the Brotherhood, especially its foreign influence, with a quiet look at places like Turkey and Qatar, which have been important patrons for the European Muslim Brotherhood in recent years. And Germany's much the same. As the government's will to suppress is less strong, but there is a recognition there, especially among security services, that the Muslim Brotherhood in Germany remains powerful, remains dangerous, and remains indelibly tied into problems of extremism and radicalization that plague that country.
We all remember the Hamburg cell by the Egyptian Brotherhood Muhammad Atta, who took over the leadership of one of the groups that executed the September 11 attacks in the United States. German constitutionals believed that the Muslim Brotherhood is more dangerous than the jihadists, as they do not seek to establish an Islamic state through violence, but through legal entry through institutions. This is what German intelligence concluded, that the Brotherhood is more dangerous than any organization such as Al-Qaeda and ISIS terrorists. The Muslim Brotherhood in Germany benefits from cooperation with Turkish Islamic associations, especially with the extremist movement of Mili Garouche, the Turkish arm of the Muslim Brotherhood, and the Turkish Union for Religious Affairs.
In fact, since the very beginning of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, the use and manipulation and exploitation of social services was key to the Brotherhood's growth and expansion. Right from the beginning, it involved itself not just in the mosques, but in the community centers, in the pharmacies that hand out prescription drugs. And today you see this now. Hamas made a name for itself, and Hamas, remember, is the Palestinian arm of the Muslim Brotherhood. Hamas made a name for itself among Palestinians by providing social services, in contrast to the corrupt, ineffective Palestinian Authority, which was unable to help its people. Hamas provided the social services, it legitimized its movement. This is how the Muslim Brotherhood has functioned for almost the last 100 years now. It makes use of the provision of charity to advance its cause, and this is often known within Muslim Brotherhood circles as dawah, as a form of proselytization. It's just about radicalizing those folks who are already Muslim and radicalizing them into an Islamist position. So social services have remained key, and this has been particularly true in Europe. And over the last 20, 30 years, we've seen Muslim Brotherhood networks set up and establish enormous charitable and social service non-profit systems in the West. In places like Germany, this takes place in collaboration with Turkish Islamist networks as well. You have groups like Mili Garouche, you have Turkish nationalists, and then you have direct affiliates of the Erdogan, of President Erdogan's AKP party. Germany, in particular, is a hotspot for Turkish Islamism, and collaboration with the Brotherhood in those countries has been particularly key. At one point, the Turkish Islamist relationship with the Muslim Brotherhood was one almost of rivalry. Two different Islamist networks competing for the Islamist crown, for the caliphate, for the right to impose Islam. But in recent years, that hostility, that rivalry, has turned into very fruitful, productive collaboration. And as I say, Germany is just the key example of that kind of concordance taking place.
Therefore, the Muslim Brotherhood in Germany has become a dilemma for the security and intelligence services, primarily since the associations and organizations affiliated with the group, which is not mentioned in detail, by infiltrating the democratic system to create a parallel society based on the ideology of the Brotherhood, primarily since these associations provide social services which allows them to penetrate and cause a threat to national security. The growing activities of the Muslim Brotherhood in Germany reflect the size of the negative influence of Islamic organizations with extremist ideology. Hey, Maria Malouf here. Please click to like and subscribe to Maria Malouf TV YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.